So we're back again. Hi everybody.
Tēnā koutou.
Well, we talked about Pouakai and Tohora. We talked about their history, and we already connected a bit to nowadays. But I think it would be nice to put them a bit more in the day of today and see what they can tell us, and maybe they can take us with them into the future, what we're heading for or what we're heading to. I don't know exactly what the right word is to use, but because they didn't show up accidentally. Did they?
No. They're the example of what we've done and what we're about to do.
You mean on this planet as mankind? Yeah.
As causing the extinction of a particular species, meaning Pouakai, and the possible extinction of Tohora, the whale. But because Tohora is also an ancestor of ours, the possible extinction of ourselves.
Well, that puts it sharply. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no, we're in the time of no mucking around now. It's point blank. We have to see what we've done and what we're doing. That's why I support the rangatahi, the young people, and their environmental movement, because they're trying to make us see, us older generations.
Yeah, if we look at what happens today, and if we look at nature, and I have to think about the vulture we saw in the Netherlands, who came to the Netherlands. It was actually a one who had, how do you call this? It was marked. They followed it by GPS.
Ah, yes, yeah.
And it didn't make it. It flew into these big windmills.
Yeah.
And it was actually the idea to follow it and to see if they could breed and if they would if there would be more vultures, but it died. And it was a species that hasn't been in Europe, in this part of Europe, in the Netherlands, for a long time. So when I read that it died, I was like, that's another sign that we build stuff into the air with these big windmills. They're not supposed to be in our lands, I think. Well, of course we want to use the wind to get the electricity and stuff, but it's not. Our birds don't understand this. So what are we doing wrong? What should we understand from specific this animal?
Respect.
What happened to it?
We've lost respect for nature. Nature includes the animals, the birds, the insect life. We have no respect for them. And of course the biggest thing we're doing is we're encroaching on its natural habitat.
Yeah.
And you know, as their habitat becomes smaller and smaller, they have less and less places to go. That's what we're doing. It's the same with the oceans. We're destroying the natural habitat of Tohora, the whale. That's why its song is going so strongly over the land now. Every workshop I've been holding recently, the people are saying all they can feel are whale energies. And then they are surprised when I say, yes, I know. You know?
Yes.
But then rather than carry that surprise, it's to talk to them about it. And as my ancestors said, to know our future, look to our past. Because our new future will be how our ancestors lived in the past.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a bit more about the whale. I just want to go really quickly back to the vulture, because you said respect. And I remember that I read that they knew where it was flying, so they made the organization of the windmills to shut them down. But the bird changed direction, and it flew into a direction where they didn't shut them down. So they kind of estimated that it would probably fly over there, so they shut them down, and then it took a different direction because of the wind or whatever.
Exactly.
And then so it flew into one of these big windmills and it died. And so the idea, wow, they shut them down, it's not good for the economy to put them down and stuff like that. Thinking, probably, that's a respectful thing to do, but we didn't get it.
No.
Because we didn't understand, probably, well, I don't know exactly the history and the research about it, but it didn't understand probably that it had to take another direction. And maybe it did it because it wanted to show us something.
Possibly. But of course, it's going to follow the wind currents. It's that simple. But yeah, if they shut it down, that's going to affect the economy. Well, that's where the imbalance is, because the economy has nothing to do with nature.
Even though with our windmills, we think that we have a sustainable way of getting power.
Yes,
yeah.
But even the power is an unnatural thing for us. We always had the sun.
Yeah.
And I don't mean solar. I mean for energy-wise, how we used to feed off the sun or grow our crops so they can become bountiful. We didn't need electricity because we had the night sky and fire.
Yeah.
And fire covered, not only giving us sight at night, but also gave us warmth, but also gave us food, cooked food, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So just that basic thing of fire gave us three that only one of a windmill would provide us with.
And it wouldn't kill a vulture or any other animal,
No.
because it would never fly into the fire, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, so that was to me, when I read this story, normally I wouldn't think that much of it, only, well, that's a pity. But now I looked at it at a different level because of the talks we had about Pouakai and about Tohora. And we have a very, very expressive rooster who's making a fuss out of something.
He's being kept away from his women.
Ah, yeah.
So I can relate.
He's being chased away, yeah. So you talked about Tohora sending its songs over the land, trying to reach us, and people who don't even are maybe aware of it suddenly get connected to the whale energy. They feel the whale, they hear it. And what do they tell, what they hear? What have they been telling you?
Well, they're singing to us. The whale song. They're singing to us. They're telling us what we do. And our ancient whale song. They're saying they're going to leave. They're leaving for our ancient underworld in the east. And they will not return until we relearn the ways of our ancient ones. Not remember, because we'll make mistakes, but relearn. And because that's the key to our future. Our new is returning to how it was, where we didn't have such unnatural things to replicate, for instance, medicine. Building canoes, or building our shelter. Everything that we pay money for, medicines especially, is only replicated with what we get for free, that nature provides us, gifts us. So yeah, anything to do with national economies and all that, to me, is an unnatural thing anyway. Eventually it'll fall over, like when a tree gets old.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so we have Pouakai and Tohora showing up in their own way and showing us what's going on. It's very specific because we're not used to look at the animals. It's a total different energy to connect to the animals and to listen to what they say. We've lost that way of connecting to it. We don't exactly know how to hear or with what kind of eyes we have to look. And that's interesting because when I think of Pouakai, I remember he showed me and invited me to look through its eyes. And that's so intense. That's such a gift. If we only have like 1% of it, 1% of it, then we can then we know how to look at the world on a broad perspective. If we connect to Tohora and we connect to his way of communicating, then I think we can listen in a whole different way. And I was thinking this morning when I drove up here to your place, I was thinking about the whales and the dolphins that are kept in the seaquariums. And the first thing I always thought, oh, it's a pity they can't swim far. And the first thing I thought, wow, if they send out their sound, it's going to reflect back from the walls of their basins, of their pools.
Yeah.
In the ocean, they only may have the beach or the rocks, but mostly it can float out. Imagine if you're in that space, knowing that it amplifies, water amplifies sound, that it hits right back to you. I was wondering, do they even communicate, or are they being shut down because it's too intense? I don't know how it works, but what's your feeling about that?
Well, again, it's so simple. Because all we hear is from one, we only hear them from our ears.
Mm-hmm.
But if we learn to regain the use of all our senses and have them working all together at once, for those in SeaWorld and all that, are they singing? Why are they screaming? Why are they crying? If I was kept in a cage like that, I wouldn't be singing. And obviously those that are in the ocean can't hear them. Like you said, the sound is being magnified back to them. So that sound can't actually get out of that pool.
That's traumatizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they hear their own cry for help, like maybe 10 times stronger, and it hits them back. Yeah, so it's like imprinting all the time. Yeah. That's painful. That's painful if you and I can imagine that those in the ocean may try, because they feel in a different field beyond water. They feel, I think, within their species that there are some of them who are not safe or who are hurting.
Well, like I said before, the whales in New Zealand waters or Australian waters, when they sing, the whales in Hawaii can hear them and reply. But if you're in a soundproof room, who can hear you?
Yeah.
Just yourself.
But do you think they can telepathically still be connected within their species?
Possibly, but if they could, you'd think many from out in the ocean would be trying to reach them. Yeah. That's my belief, is that they can't hear them, and so don't know that they need help, don't know they're there.
If we put that image, that story, what we've just been exploring, back to what we experience nowadays? What does it tell us? It's happening. This is happening. There are people, and we're already heading to the subject of the younger generation, but let's just keep it with the broader idea of people. There are people screaming.
Yes,
for help.
Yes, today we're the ones in the pool. We're the ones in the soundproof room. And the rangatahi, the young people, the environmental movement are screaming at us, but we're not hearing them because we don't hear them. We won't listen. Again, that's how I see it. We're the ones in the pool. And it's like, say for instance, a dolphin that's born and raised in captivity. You know, a lot of them, if they are released back into the ocean, a lot of them don't survive.
No.
You can imagine whether it's people or dolphin. A dolphin that's born in a pool, spends its entire life in a pool, and then is released back to its own species, they won't see a dolphin.
Although they look the same, they won't speak the same language, won't move in the same way, don't know how to interact. Yeah. Do you think you can compare it to how we have our children in the schools, for example, and we put them out there in the world? Maybe even if we put them out in nature, that they don't even know how a tree grows and things like that. Is that a comparison?
Of course, you know, it's a system, which means it's a cage,
right,
or a pool.
A pool, yeah.
And but then, I think I've said it again before, you put a child in nature and you will not see separation between that child and nature. But I know people who have been born and bred and raised and spent their adulthood in a city, and they feel uncomfortable in nature. And that's what I mean with a dolphin that's born in captivity and in its adult years is returned to the ocean. It's an unnatural habitat to it. And it's the same with humans.
What were we thinking once by doing this? What were we thinking to bringing these beautiful animals out of the ocean into
profit?
Yeah.
Profit, you know. Again, to me, because I grew up with the dolphins, as you know.
Yeah.
I swam with them. So I didn't need to go to a pool to go and look at them. I could swim with them and they'd swim with me.
Voluntarily?
Yes.
Yeah.
All we'd do is float out in a rubber tube, it would stick about that long, and we'd float out into the bay and all we'd do is tap the tube. If they were around, they knew it was playtime.
Yeah.
Then they'd be jumping over us. They never allowed us to touch them when we were children, but they played with us. And that was my childhood, because they weren't in a cage or pool, and they were in their own natural habitat. And when you think about us, this is our natural habitat, the taiao, nature. You know, when we're living in a high-rise or a house, that's not a natural habitat for us, if you think about it.
True.
With our connection, because once you start putting walls up, that's when the disconnect starts happening. And then when you've got, say, 10 or 20 walls up before you even reach your neighbour, that's the separation as well. I know people who've been living next door to somebody for over 30 years and don't know who their neighbour is. But getting back to the children, yes, the education system is a cage, but this is the best classroom that the children could actually be in. You know, this is where they'll read the weather. You know, and know if whatever they're seeing in the sky, the type of clouds, for instance, they'll know, oh, it's going to rain, I better get home.
Yeah.
Well, when I say that is because when I was a child, I wasn't at home. I was down the beach or playing in the bush.
Out.
Yeah, miles away.
Yeah. And was safe.
Yeah. Oh, of course. No snakes in New Zealand.
But if you think about the waters, you've been in the waters your whole life, your childhood.
Yes.
And you've been connected to the dolphins and to the whale. If you think back of that, what is the strongest medicine they gave you as a child, being connected to them? What's the strongest feeling they've given you? What was the most expressive?
The strongest feeling was, I suppose you could call it whānau, family. You know, because we played together. You know, and they are just as playful as well when we tap on the tube and if they're around. You know, but and we'd be in the bay for hours playing with them, swimming around, laughing, and it wasn't just a thing you had to catch for an hour of a day or something. It was, if they were there, they wanted to play all day.
Yeah.
You know, but it was that togetherness. We were too young then to realise about nature today, because we were still part of nature, of course, in those times. And but in my adult years, looking back on that, it was the connection that we had as children to nature.
And you understood their play, and vice versa.
Yeah.
They understood your way of playing without using voice or language. Well, you use the language, but a different language.
We'd jump in and watch them under the water and when they knew that we were watching them under the water, they'd do, do certain actions under the water, knowing we were watching them.
Showing off.
Yeah, when our head went above the surface of the
They
water,
came up?
they'd come up and stuff. But it was that togetherness, I think. Like I said, as a child, we weren't thinking of nature. But as an adult, thinking back to it, thinking, well, it was our connection to nature. We were all together. And that's how my ancestors were when in our ancient voyages, with the whales guided them to land, but then they didn't go into shore because they were too big. But once we reached sight of land, well, then the dolphins would come and guide us through the reefs onto shore. So that's how it once was.
But let's take it a step deeper, because when I'm just thinking, listening to your story, if they kind of recognize we as a person. And I remember the story, we talked about it, that this Mantarog saved this woman and brought her to shore. They somehow understand that we are not able to breathe underwater. But I have to think about the dream I was talking to you about, but not sure if we can share it here. But they somehow know who we are, which they know it better than a cow, for example. I'm just giving. But they know it in a certain level. They know how to play. They know when we're in danger. They know. So I'm trying to figure out, because that's why we feel so connected to them. Everybody is, when they see a whale or a dolphin, it opens up something. So there must be something between them and us that makes it so strong. It feels so magical. And you've been with them. So what's the magic?
It's the ancient connection where we were with them nearly every day. Not the whales, of course, because they'd migrate. But
as people, as mankind.
We were always part of their life. With me in New Zealand waters during the summer, of course. But they don't just recognise our panic or the fear that we might put out if we're in danger. They also see the colours, and they can interpret the colours as well.
Do you mean our aura?
I suppose you could call it aura. Yeah, but just the energies around us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
And if we're in distress, those colours will change. You know, it's like a pregnant woman sitting in the ocean with a dolphin around. She'll feel the dolphin's sonar hitting, and the dolphin is, can see there's a baby inside there. And of course, that dolphin will come straight up and
being enthusiastic about
yeah, but very gentle, knowing that it's a baby.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, with our thrashing around in the water, if we're panicking, they'll feel that with their sonar. And like I said, with the colours, but also the energies that we put out, of course. But all the senses we once had, and we're able to sense in others that we've lost.
So if you think about the days that we were, as people, very strongly connected and working together with them, if we would be able to get that idea and get that in remembrance, then we would be more able to know what they try to show us, I think.
With the whale song, not only going through the ocean now, but also over the land, well then, again, to me it's simple. If the whale songs are coming over the land, it won't only just affect us here while we're talking, or in my case, one of my workshops, my haka workshops, also while we sleep. And that can take the form of dreams, for instance. So we've got so much to relearn, really.
Yeah. So let's explore it a bit. Maybe we have to cut it out. But we as a species have been able to be in the water more than we are now.
Yes.
And so I'm trying to find, we're people from the land, so we learned how to live on land. But once we were able to be more connected to the sea, and like you were able to keep your breath like for 5 minutes, we could do a lot more as a person in a body, with our body, than we can do nowadays.
Yes.
Would that be an invitation again, just to go to kind of gain that back? Would it be something that our youth would benefit? To be more, because we think we need a lot of stuff, you know, like things to go in the water. We need wetsuits and stuff like that. But yeah, you're laughing. But what's that? Well, I mean, we were able to be in cold water once. Some people still can.
Well, as a child, I was able to too in New Zealand. Not as cold as here, of course. But
you think you could say that we lost the connection of nature outside of us, but also of our own nature within us?
Of course. Of course.
That's what I'm been thinking about.
See, I'm a simple man, and I believe every myth and legend once was fact. And because of what we call the forgetting, what once was fact, over time, especially with the stories not being passed down generation to generation, they start becoming a myth or a legend. And you know, one of our myths, I suppose you could call it, was of a tribe under the sea, living in the ocean, underneath the ocean. And our wharenui, our carved houses on our ceremonial grounds, originated from the ocean, not from the land. You know, so
those are not coincidences.
no.
That's
no.
it has a story,
Yeah.
a history. Yeah.
But as a child, I was taught, you know, to call my tribal totem, which, as you know, is the hammerhead shark, and ask it if it would lend me its powers.
Yeah.
And that's how I believe, how I was able to hold my breath for so long under the water. But only for as long as it was needed. In these modern times of living on the land. But to be in touch, as I said earlier today, we have 3 hearts in my culture. And that's why I was raised to breathe from the top of my head down to my toes and back, not out this way. Because we have 3 hearts. The pū manawa, we don't have a third eye in our culture, but our pū manawa is situated in the centre of our forehead, and that's our spiritual heart. And our manawa ora, which is the heart we know, and our belly button is our whatu manawa. That's our emotional heart, and that's connected to our Earth Mother, the cord. And today, in these modern times, we've forgotten. So we only know of one heart, our physical heart. Now that heart is doing the job of 2 other hearts as well, so it's overworked. So when it's overworked or it's tried to take on too much, a heart attack will happen. And now, to me, it's because our manawa ora is working too hard for the other 2 hearts as well.
Yeah.
And if we learnt to reconnect with our 3 hearts, heart attacks, for instance, would disappear because they're all working, doing their function.
We talked about this morning. You told about these, and I said, "Wow, this is weird," because I know how it feels when your third eye starts to open or becomes active. But while you were explaining this, I could suddenly sense something in the middle of my forehead, like over here, which I've never sensed before. I always sense something lower. So this is actually, and then you explained, this is your spiritual heart. I wasn't aware of it, and I think I really want to put some accent on this, because we can listen to what you're saying, but you can kind of make sure that it gets into you, the words, and let your body respond, and then you can feel. And I'm pretty sensitive, and we have a strong connection. We have a strong ancestral connection, so for me it's pretty easy. But I would like to invite everybody just to listen and to feel if you can sense it in your body, because it surprised me. Well, actually it didn't, but it did, because I wasn't aware of this place in the middle of my forehead. I knew it a bit lower, but I didn't know this one. Yeah,
my journey over here is not to teach my culture, but through what I'm doing here, if it reconnects the people here with their own ancient culture, that's what it's all about. Because once you go back far enough to your own ancient cultures, if what I say, something that I say resonates, it's actually reopening a door or reawakening part of your DNA that once was in the ancient times. Because once we go back to those ancient times far enough, my culture would be your culture would be no different to mine, like with my Mayan brother. When we talk, the further back in time we go, the closer we can feel our cultures coming together. So it's the reconnection, the reawakening, or what I call reopening the doors in here, because it's already there. It's already in the people.